Watch more, feel more. Dell.
Here we are then, back and ready on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell, for what we can consider the business end or the business beginning of the seventh T20 World Cup by the ICC. Let's focus on it then on our pre-show. It seems like it's been a long time since we've had a T20 World Cup. We've traded IPL colours for national colours now, and 5 years it's been since the West Indies did what they did in Kolkata. 5 years is also what it feels like when you're undergoing quarantine every couple of weeks. Tom Moody knows that feeling in Perth, finishing off quarantine after making his way from the UAE. And who's to say Ajit Agarkar hasn't had his share of bubbles, one media bubble after the next. Back you guys are all set and ready to be home. Tom, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm finding it very hard to get my 10,000 steps up in a day when I'm in a 3 by 5 metre square room, which I've been in for 13 days.
Yeah, didn't you pace enough up and down thinking about the Sunrisers campaign? Sorry, Tom, I have to get that out of the way at the top itself.
Yeah, I haven't been doing paces there. I've been doing somersaults.
Ajit Agarkar's had the privilege of watching so much cricket right now, Ajit. We've had IPL, we had an entire summer of Indian cricket. Something special about a World Cup, isn't there? T20 World Cup, of which you yourself have fond memories from the inaugural edition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and it's what 5 years now, so I'm sure a lot of the teams, in spite of having a 50-over World Cup, must be itching. Don't forget the warm-ups that I watched as well. So I know a bit what teams have been doing. So yeah, but always exciting to start the World Cup.
Yeah, that's exactly why we're here. It's a warm welcome back to Ajit Agarkar on ESPN Cricket, as well as to Tom Moody. We've had a panel full of regulars now. So hello to Gautam Gambhir as well. We talk about
Thank you.
how a T20 World Cup is different. It is, isn't it, Gautam? We may talk IPL all year round. Come the T20 World Cup, the feeling is just that much more special.
Oh, absolutely. When you're playing international cricket, when you're playing international tournament, it has a completely different feel to it. You can play as many franchise leagues around. When you're representing your country, what bigger honor than that? And that also, when you represent your country in an event like a World Cup.
And we kick off with Australia and South Africa. What a curious group this has turned out to be, then, through all the confusion that surrounded who actually ends up joining England, West Indies, Australia, and South Africa. We now know that it's the two most formidable teams from round one, with no disrespect to Namibia and Scotland. So that sets up Australia v South Africa. Toss has gone down for Aaron Finch. It's gone his way, and he's going to have a bowl first. We'll come to all that in just a bit. But what can we really expect from Australia in this World Cup? Tom Moody, that seems to be a question for a number of us to answer. I had quite a few people answer Australia as dark horses for the tournament, not something you associate with them. What can we expect from Australia?
Yeah, well, it's going to be very interesting, isn't it? Because there is, if you look at the names on the list, there's a lot of quality, there's a lot of star quality and experience there. But one of the major issues Australia face is form. And we all know how important it is at the top of the order to have form in your batting lineup. At the moment with Warner and Finch, they don't really have that form. And they're also just trying to sort out, what their order looks like. Where is Smith going to bat? Is he going to bat 3 or is he going to bat 5 and be that stabiliser in the middle of the innings? Is Maxwell going to continue his IPL form? I would think so. That would be a yes. But to me, there's a lot of unknowns with Australia. Their bowling attack is strong. They've got good spin options with both Zampa, who's been brilliant over the last couple of years, and Agar, if they choose to go with him as the second spinner. So there's a few positives, but there's a lot of unanswered questions. And that's what I think a lot of people are sitting back and waiting. And this first game against South Africa is absolutely critical for their campaign. If they get off to a winning start, a lot of those woes and concerns about the team and the balance of the team will be forgotten.
If we look at their form going into this World Cup, it's not great. Aaron Finch has admitted himself that COVID seems to have thrown all their World Cup preparation plans for a toss. That's what the Australian captain said going into this. They lost in New Zealand, they lost in the West Indies, they also lost in Bangladesh. Now, Gautam, when you have that sort of form running into this, you're saying things as the captain that the pandemic did throw our plans off. Are Australia any worse than any other team in that case?
Look, I don't think so that once you get into a tournament like a World Cup, form really do not matter, to be honest, because ultimately they've got quality players. When you've got people like David Warner, Aaron Finch, Steve Smith, Marcus Stoinis, Glenn Maxwell, you've got a bowling lineup with uh, Mitchell Stark and Pat Cummins. You can't take this team lightly, and especially come the Australia, and that also in the World Cup. You can never take any Australian side for granted. I've always maintained one thing: to win the World Cup, you have to beat Australia, because they are probably the best team to probably play those moments really, really well. You remember when we won in 2007, we had to beat Australia in the semi-finals. When we won in 2011, we had to beat them in the quarterfinals. So no Australian team is weak. Yes, the form might not be in their favor, but they've got a lot of quality in their ranks. So probably you should not be talking about them as the dark horses. Yeah, probably they can still go on to do something really special in this tournament.
Are these players, Ajit, though quality, yes, but are they still formidable at where they are in their cricket career right now? David Warner, Aaron Finch, Pat Cummins in T20, Josh Hazelwood in T20, Steve Smith in T20. Does that strike the sort of formidability and fear that Australia tend to?
It does. Actually, it's funny because worked on the warm-up game that they played against India and even New Zealand. Until then, I'd not really had a look at the Australian team, and it's still there's enough there. I think the biggest worry is the top two. If they can hit some sort of form, get them off to some sort of start, there's enough there. Mitch Marsh, Stoinis, Maxwell, Steve Smith, those guys can provide enough through the middle. So enough quality in that team. The top two need to fire. I think that's a real worry with the way they're looking at the moment every time they walk out. Uh, that if they can sort out, Australia will be formidable as they always are.
We look at David Warner's numbers. He's always going to be a central point now. The focus is on David Warner, as it was for a large part of the IPL in the two halves that had happened. He's actually still got great numbers in T20I cricket if you choose to give credits to T20I numbers in isolation. He's got the highest average for a batter in T20I since 2019. He averages nearly 95. So is that as simple as isolating what's been a wretched IPL for him, Tom? And you know more about David Warner than anybody else over here. Is he still the T20 batter that he's been for these years, or is the story changing a bit?
Well, it's an interesting one because I think the fact is he hasn't played a lot of cricket over the last 6 months or even 12 months to what he has done historically to have the reputation, to have the numbers that he's accumulated over time. And any player, regardless of what stage they are at their career, needs to have that volume of cricket, needs that momentum in their game. So I think that's one of the real handicaps that he has had at the moment is that he decided not to go on the West Indies tour that Australia went on, which was both a 50-over tournament and a T20 series against the West Indies. And then they went to Bangladesh. He chose not to go on that. So he missed opportunities to really play some cricket, get the volume that his game needs or any batsman's game needs. I think there's only one batsman at the moment in the world who's not featuring in this World Cup that can come in from the cold and play brilliantly, and that's AB de Villiers. But any batsman needs the volume of cricket, and I think he is starved of that volume of cricket. Yes, we all know the story of the IPL with regards to him not getting the game time that he would have liked, but that's going to be his biggest hurdle.
Gautam, David Warner, will we see a different player in Australian colours?
Look, it's a double-edged sword. This is that kind of a format where you can actually lose form very quickly and you can actually retain form very quickly as well. And he has quality, and that is the reason why he's played for Australia for such a long time, and he's delivered in all the three formats. You're probably just one shot away from getting back into that form, and this actually format allows you to go out there and play freely. And irrespective, yes, you want that form, you want those runs under your belt, so just go out there and express yourself. You can't go any below than this, to be honest. He's literally hit rock bottom, so all he can go is probably upwards. But does he have that belief? And probably I've always believed a quality player is someone who's just one shot away from getting back into form. So just look to probably score runs and be as aggressive as you can be. It's easier said than done. We all have gone through probably bad forms in our life. People have said the same thing, but do you have the courage and the belief and the mental toughness to do that? And when you're playing against Rabada, Nokia, who've got pace up their sleeves, so it's got to be hard work. But then all you can do when you're playing for your country is to go out there and be as positive as you can be. Forget about what kind of form you're in.
Would have helped if he was playing alongside a gun opening bat, you think, Ajit. But he's batting around a little bit of uncertainty. We're not sure of what we're expecting from Aaron Finch, the batter, either. Mitchell Marsh is in what looks like a relatively new role, and Steve Smith resigned somewhere to the middle order. Does that help matters or make it worse for David Warner?
I mean, he'd ideally like someone who's in better form than what Aaron Finch has shown. There's no doubt about it. We saw with India as well, KL Rahul striking the ball so well the other day. And I know it's warm up, but Rohit Sharma could take a little bit more time, bat himself into the game. That sort of partnership will certainly help because then there's no pressure of going hard himself. Warner can play himself into the game. Uh, but hopefully for Australia, from Australia's point of view, they find that in the main game, sometimes the warm-ups don't perhaps push you to the same sort of limit that a main game would. Facing a Nokia or a Rabada might get those juices flowing, and that's what Australia would be hoping. But there is no doubt that if Aaron Finch was in better form, it would have certainly helped David Warner.
Okay, I've actually decided not to discuss warm-ups at all. I don't think they can make any difference at all. So I'm leaving the warm-ups entirely aside for the main tournament, and let's focus on the 11s that they've gone with. Aaron Finch gave us an inkling of what this team might look like, and it is one which features Cummins, Stark and Hazelwood together. Kane Richardson must wait his turn. There is Adam Zampa. We're wondering to see if they would have gone for an Ashton Agar. They haven't. So the team that they've gone with is Finch, Warner, Marsh, Maxwell, and Steve Smith. If we are to read that he bats at 5, then he bats at 5. Marcus Stoinis 6, Matthew Wade 7, and then Cummins, Stark, Zampa, and Hazelwood to follow. Tom Moody, make sense of this team for us, would you?
Yeah, I quite like this option for Australia at the moment. They're relying, obviously, the fifth bowling slot to be filled with Maxwell, Stoinis and Mitch Marsh, which I think the three of them are very capable to be able to fill those 4 overs. They've gone with their experienced spearheads. A little bit of concern over Pat Cummins, given that he hasn't got the game time. He only had that one practice match. He's coming from no cricket whatsoever. Yes, he would have been building up in pre-season in Sydney in the winter, but no game time for him. So just those soft skills may be challenged. But Hazelwood obviously had a good IPL with Chennai Super Kings, so he's carrying some good form. And Stark has been up and running and played both matches, and is also a vital cog in their wheel, particularly his ability to bowl at the back end of the innings.
Ajit, you did go for Hazelwood and Cummins to start this tournament along with Mitchell Stark in our preview to this game. So Ken Richardson must wait his turn, like the look of that bowling lineup?
I think so. I mean, they've gone. I think that's the first time those three are playing together, if I'm not wrong. So, but they've got real quality. Abu Dhabi pitch might provide a little bit of bounce. And that looks they won their batting long. Matthew Wade's the only wicketkeeper in that. Otherwise, they would have perhaps thought of going with Ashton Agar. But they've got enough in terms of filling that bowling slot, like Tom said, with Maxwell, Stoinis, and Mitch Marsh helping out. But those three can get you wickets, and getting wickets up front will be important as always.
In this curious year, Gautam, where you've had a T20 World Cup that follows an IPL, we just wait for Gautam to come back. It's a curious year, isn't it? Let's talk about the South African team. In the meantime, where Themba Bavuma, we must make mention, is proud to lead South Africa in an ICC event. All sorts of conversation on whether Faf du Plessis and the form that he showed could have merited some sort of shoehorn selection into the South African side. That's not how it rolls in South Africa. Quinton de Kock will partner the South African captain at the top. Markram's batted 3 for Punjab. Rassie van der Dussen comes back of 100 in the warm-ups. And then you've got David Miller, who makes an 11. So too does Heinrich Klaas and Pretorius over Mulder. And Rabada, Nokia are the two-man seam attack. No Lungi and Gidi. So Keshav Maharaj and Tabre Shamshi form what will be a two-man left-arm spin attack, very curiously. Tom, you like that?
Yeah, look, just on Maharaj, I think that's a good selection. Historically, Australia haven't played left-arm spin particularly well, so I think that selection is based around what the numbers would have told the selectors for South Africa playing against Australia. A lot of people would be probably surprised that Ngeni's not playing, but I think it's basically down to the fact that Australia can be vulnerable against left-arm spin. So, look, they're a power-pack bowling attack. You know, Shamsi has got a terrific record in T20 cricket, and he's going to be a handful. He's got, obviously, his partner with his left-arm spinner, and they got genuine pace. And both those bowlers in Nokia and Rabada are coming off both good IPLs. They've got cricket under their belt. They've played in these conditions. They're familiar with the links they need to be bowling. So they're going to be a threat up front.
There looks like you've got five specialist bowling options that includes Dwayne Pretorius, Ajit, unless Aiden Markram is called up to bowl. So does this look like a potent enough bowling lineup with Noke and Rabada? Or are you still a little worried about South Africa's bowling?
No, I think so. I mean, it looks like a very good attack, and we've seen Markram do a decent job with the ball. We saw it in the
Yeah.
IPL, more than capable of bowling a couple of overs if need be, or if more on the day. So, no, it's a good attack. I think Australia will also have just Warner and Matthew Wade as left-handers in that top seven. So it's not as if everything. And Shamshi anyway can spin it both ways. So no, it's a lot more balanced this attack, and guys who can bowl at different stages of the innings, and that's what you're looking for. Five regular bowlers, but there's always a sixth option who can help out.
Tom, you were in the UAE until very recently. Do these afternoon games hold significant advantages with the toss? We saw that perhaps more at Sharjah. We are at Abu Dhabi today. How crucial is the toss here and Australia bowling first?
Yeah, look, I think there was only one occasion where Dew came into play. That was obviously in the evening game. During the day, it's just dealing with the extreme heat. That's what the challenge is going to be for the players. Is how they manage that. Can they make sure that they're still running hard between the wickets? Are they, if they do field, and if that fielding effort has taken a lot out of your top order batters, because we know that key fielders like David Warner runs from deep mid off to deep mid off, to make sure he's in the hot zone all the time. Is that going to take anything out of his, fitness with regards to his preparation for his batting? Look, I don't think there's a huge advantage with the toss. I think Australia, if anything, are feeling their way by bowling first. Just trying to get into the game, let South Africa work out how the pitch is playing and what value they feel the total should be, and let them chase that.
Gautam, we were just discussing before I lost you on this being a curious year with an IPL that preceded the World Cup. Now, how much do you think teams should weigh in on IPL form here? Josh Hazlewood getting the nod over a Kane Richardson, or just generally we look at how the IPL's gone, and we look at the likes of David Warner, who still Warner always really make this team. Sorry, I'm just having some trouble with my internet here. Right, but how much do you think the IPL form would weigh in going into this World Cup, Gautam?
I don't think so a lot, to be honest. Because had that been the case, then Warner would have never find a place in this playing 11. Plus, I think Australia has gone with probably the best four bowlers, and Josh Hazlewood obviously is a quality bowler. And then for me, I think when you're playing international cricket, when you're playing international T20, and that also the World Cup, you're actually facing, as a batter, you're facing 4 or 5 top quality international bowlers. As compared to when you play an IPL, you can still to target 1 or 2 domestic bowlers as well. And that is why I say that yes, IPL form is good from that extent. You can have a good factor, but that has no assurance that you're going to do well in an international tournament, and that also of a quality of the World Cup, because you're actually bowling to the best and you're facing the best. And imagine you have to face Pat Cummins, Mitchell Stark, and Josh Hazlewood, three of the top bowlers. So it will never be easy for any batter, and exactly for David Warner, if you're facing Rabada, Nokia, and Shamsi. So there will not be any probably easy way out. So I feel that form is only for a good feel good factor, nothing beyond that.
Well, it would have been tempting for South Africa to bring back a Brandon Form and Faf du Plessis into this tournament, or an AB de Villiers, like Tom Moody says, who he would have still back to walk into an 11 cold without cricket. That's not how it works, Tom. So what can we expect from South Africa? Quinton de Kock's had an average or poor IPL. Nokia and Rabada have been all right, but what can we expect from South Africa this World Cup?
Yeah, look, they're a threat. I don't personally see them being a side in the top 4 at the pointy end of the tournament, but they've got some players that are a genuine threat. Van der Dusen, for instance, has got a brilliant 100 in the warm-up, so he's shown that he's not a player that should be ignored in the middle order. Quinton de Kock, I wouldn't be so concerned about his form. We know what he's done and historically how dangerous he can be. And I think players like Quinton de Kock will raise his game for an ICC event like this. They're bowling strong, which I touched on earlier, which I think is going to be really important. They've got a lot of diversity in their bowling. And the one thing they have got, which I do like, is they've got genuine pace. Nokia and Rabada are world-class bowlers. They're right up at the top end of what's available around the world at the moment, and they're both in form. So they're going to give a lot of top orders a bit of a headache and challenge them in those power play overs.
Yeah, seems like a team, Ajit, that's going to rely on their bowlers to win them games. But then again, that's just any team, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, we've seen in the UAE before, genuine pace has made a big difference with how teams have done. And maybe in the IPL, but all the IPL teams who've had two guys up front who had a bit of pace has made a difference. The pitches have got a little bit of rest as well over the last week, 10 days, so might play a lot better. And the, it's the quality that there. It's not just pace, it's the quality, and two guys who can get wickets will help. We saw some good things in the. Anderdusen looked very impressive when he's batted for South Africa. They'd hope to get a bit more from De Kock. Markram's looked impressive. So they've got the players. Certainly the bowling is the stronger suit, but it's not as if they're missing too much in their batting.
When you play the first game of the tournament, effectively this is that, with no disrespect to round one, Gautam, do you already have numbers in mind? What sort of score is going to be a decent start to a big T20 World Cup campaign? Is it going to be a 160, 170 sort of World Cup? Because it was a below par IPL in terms of the numbers, wasn't it?
No, I'm sure they must have gone through the stats, what has happened in the IPL as well. And they don't want to push too hard, especially in the first game as well. If they can get to a competitive total, they know that they've got the bowling lineup, especially South Africa, to defend that. And but it is not about probably looking to get 180, 190, because you can easily probably get bundled out for 120, 130 against a bowling lineup like Australia. So probably be in the tournament, be in the competition, be in the game, try and look to get 150. You'll end up finishing at 160, 165, which according to me is a very good total, especially during the start of the competition. And if you have to look at the pool as well, this is probably the pool of death, and it's probably the toughest pool
Yeah.
anyone can imagine. So for me, I think every game, whichever two teams play, will always be under a lot of pressure to probably start the tournament really well. So 160, 165 is a decent total.
Is this going to be the World Cup of the 160 odd scores, Tom? You're fresh out of the UAE. Some of those IPL games were painful for batters. Are we expecting something different in the World Cup?
It's going to be interesting to see how the surfaces hold up as the tournament unfolds. I think initially we'll see totals that are going to be around that 160 range. We might get the odd game that might push beyond that, but I think as the tournament unfolds, we might also see that the surfaces slow down a little bit and batting become a little bit harder. But I don't think we're going to see the struggles that we saw in a couple of the matches in the IPL. I think they're all going to be reasonable totals, and it's going to be still. I think it's going to be harder to bat than bowl, if that makes sense. I'd rather be bowling on these surfaces than trying to show consistency with the bat in hand.
And
Finally,
Ronan, just
yes, Gautam, please.
just a point. Probably the afternoon games will not have that much of an impact. On the probably the evening games will have a huge impact from the toss point of view, because we saw in the warm-ups as well there was a lot of dew in the second innings. So probably that play a huge part. And probably the team who would be batting first in the evening games will have to look to put 180, 190, because they will have
Yeah.
to probably counter the dew factor as well.
All right, 14 years of the World Cup, another few more of T20 cricket. Finally, Ajit, it's gotten harder to bat than bowl in 2020.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I think as long as there's enough competition, if there's balance, 160, 165 games are really good, because that means the bowlers have had a chance as well. We saw some of the games last year in Sharjah where 220, 230 was difficult to defend. So, yeah, it's ideal. At some stage, it had to turn. Hopefully, this entire World Cup, that's the case.
Yeah, give me a score then. Ajit, you could go first. What will South Africa be happy with?
I think they'd want 170 in my opinion. I think Abu Dhabi is still a good pitch. Chasing will become a little bit easier once the lights come on. So they'd want at least a 170.
Gautam.
160, 170, exactly.
Tom.
Yeah, I think 160 will be there. That's what they'll be setting themselves to get to start with. Anything beyond that's a bonus.
All right, let's pick up the chat at the end of these 20 overs. Thank you very much, Tom, Moody, Gautam, Gambhir, Ajit, Agarkar on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. It's a thrilling, action-packed double-header to kick off the Super 12s. Australia, South Africa now, and the big one, the England-West Indies game in the evening, will be with you throughout. Let's see how the first 20 overs of the Super 12s have gone with South Africa batting.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.